In today's Leeds news, injury update, Winks on Leeds clash, Premier League clubs eye Leeds raid, and Union Berlin sporting chief on Aaronson. Hiya folks, Jay here on Monday morning the 19th of February. A little bit later today getting this one out. Sorry, dealing with some stuff at home today, so managed to get something out today. Hope you had a really good weekend. It's been a really good weekend for Leeds. It would have been nice to see Ipswich drop some points this week, but they have, 7 of the bottom 8 sides in their next 8 games. Southampton would like to see them drop points as well, but we did get the big one, Leicester dropping points this weekend as well, which means that the gap at the top between Leeds and Leicester is now 9 points. And should Leeds be able to get anything on Friday night against the game to win that match, that gap could be down to 6 points, with Leicester having to play Southampton in a couple of weeks' time as well. That gap could be as low as 3. Leicester have done their absolute best to make this a 4-horse race, and it's going to be an interesting one. I still think they're in a really good position. They're definitely in prime position. They've probably got one of the easiest run-ins for the season as well. Ipswich probably the easiest run-in, but it's going to be an interesting game. We're going to have a lot of stuff this week on that game. It's going to be a build up to Friday night. There's going to be an awful lot of talk about it. So dig in and bear with it. But we're going to start off with some injury updates this week that will impact that game. We're going to talk about Harry Winks as well. Some Premier League clubs eyeballing some Leeds players, and the Union Berlin sporting director has been speaking about Brendan Aaronson this weekend as well. So we're going to crack on with all of this. We'll start off with the first part. And we'll talk about the injury update. Patrick Bamford is the first one to talk about. Pat's been out with a calf injury. Farke said that he doesn't expect Patrick Bamford to be available for Friday night. However, he did say it would be a nice surprise if he could be. He is expected to be out for 10 to 12 days and is expected to be back just before the Chelsea match if possible. It's a blow. He was definitely missed the game on Saturday as well, so we can see what he does bring to that team when you take him out and you see the gaps that are there. The lads did fine to win that game. It's important to win a game when you're not playing well. They did that, and that's really important, especially with the running. Sam Byron's the next one. He has missed the last 2 games with a small hamstring issue on his left leg, not his right leg, which has been the problem this year. And he's also expected to be out of the Leicester game as well. And possibly back in time for the Chelsea match as well. I've seen people have a pop at this. Sam Byron cost us nothing. And he's played 28 games this season, which is an awful lot more, I think, than we would have expected him. He has contributed this season, and there's always a bit of recency bias in these kind of things, but he's done well. He'll have an important role between now and the end of the season as well. But it's that Leicester game will be a big challenge for Junior Firpo defensively. The Leicester attack with a lot of numbers and a lot at pace, so it'll be an interesting one for him to be his first real tough test as a fullback since he's come back into the Leeds side. Moving on to talk about Leeds skipper Pascal Struijk, and he missed the last 12 matches, which is incredible to think he's missed so many games. He will need a rescan this week, according to Daniel Farke. Doctors will decide if he can extend his training load based on that scan, and they'll have a clear view of what's expected from him this week. He is not expected back for another couple of weeks, and probably mid-March at best for him. Carl Darlow been out with a finger injury for a while, missed his kind of opportunity to get in as the Leeds number 1 and kind of try and nail down a spot there. Came in for 1 game, got injured, has been out since then, but he is expected to be back just before the international break as well, and back possibly for the Chelsea game as well. And then Stuart Dallas is the big one. And Farke said with Stuart Dallas, we're not talking about days or weeks here. He's going to give him as much time as he needs. His exact words were, Stuart gets all the time that he needs here. He is seeing different consultants. There's been some complications. There's no pressure on him to come back in terms of time frame. So it's unlikely we'll see Stuart Dallas this season. He is out of contract this year as well, which is unfortunate. Hopefully the club will look after him in those terms and look after him into next season. But it's a tricky one for Stuart Dallas. He's been out for nearly 2 years now. It's been tough. I think in most situations, he went back a couple of years, that the injuries had would possibly be a career ender, but he's still pushing, he's still fighting to make sure he gets back on the park, and fingers crossed he can do that. And I'd love to see that for him, but it's I don't think we'll see him this season, unfortunately. So cross our fingers that the consultants' conversations go well and we get him back in the summer as well, and he can get his career back on track for him. Moving on, let's talk about the Leeds and Leicester clash coming up on Friday, and Harry Winks has been speaking. We've heard Maresca talk about it already in terms of he doesn't believe the gap between the two sides to be very big. He thinks it's quite a small gap. I talked last week about the fact that I think Leicester have navigated the bottom teams in the league in the first half of the season much better than Leeds did, which is where that gap came from. Also should be said, it's a record-setting pace from Leicester. Leeds also 10 points ahead of where they were under the Marcelo Bielsa promotion campaign as well. And actually Leeds have, I think I saw from Rocco today, Leeds have actually hit the points total that Luton hit in the entire season last year already now. So it tells you what you're up against here. But Harry Winks has now also been speaking on the subject as well. And basically, it's a huge game for Leicester. Leicester have an opportunity to either try and tighten down their grip on the top spot and lock that position in, or opened the title race wide open for Leeds and Southampton to come back into it. As I said, if Leeds win that game, it's down to 6. Leicester would then have to go and play Southampton as well, which could bring that gap down to 3. There's pressure on then. Now Leeds would need to keep winning as well. So Winks has said on this, he said, Leeds are a good side. It's another big game for us and we have to go and make a statement. He went on to say after the Borough game, hopefully we can extend the gap with 3 points. It's a tough game. That's something we're fully aware of. But we have to put this game behind us now and focus on the next game. We can't dwell on Borough. It wasn't a great day for them. If you watch that game, it's something to keep an eye on for how they're going to play against these. They attacked with massive numbers and at real pace, which is now the flip side to that coin is they leave tons of space in behind, which we've seen how effective Leeds can be when that happens. This could be an interesting game. Will they change their style of play? Will Leeds change their style of play going into this game as well? It's really is an interesting one. This is the proper chess match, I think, of the season where both managers' tactics will either, stick, twist, stay what they're doing, or move away from it. It's going to be an interesting one. But there's going to be a lot of talk this week about this game. It is a huge game, biggest game of the season for those two teams and everybody behind them, because Southampton and Ipswich will be keeping an eye on that game as well if they can drop points. Moving on then and talk about the byproduct of having a really, really good season, which is Premier League clubs eyeballing all of our young talent. And it was going to happen. It was always going to happen with the season that this Leeds young side are having. And the Express have come out with a couple of players that Leeds need to be careful that could be pinched in the summer should promotion get away from Leeds. We've heard about Liverpool's interest in Archie Gray a lot last week. The Express have doubled down on this, saying that 17-year-old is one of Liverpool's top targets for this summer as part of their redevelopment of the younger players they want to bring into the side for the next 10 years of their future. The report also says that Everton will have another crack at Willy Gnonto in the summer, with 7 partners having been given the green light for their takeover of Everton. The caveat to that is that Everton still have a possible additional 6-point penalty deduction coming after an independent hearing, which is supposed to happen before the end of the season, which could see Everton drop into the relegation zone. And there's a possibility of a legal battle as well. Additional points are from penalties from a different season, which means other clubs are now interested in getting involved in this legal battle as well. Chris Somerville was always going to attract interest for the Premier League, but he's also attracting interest from across in Europe as well. There was a lot of interest in him. Aston Villa are said to be maintaining an interest in the player and will have a look at him again in the summer. Crystal Palace have also been named as a club who are very interested in having a look at Chris Somerville as well and are believed to be keeping a close eye on the player. Ethan Ampadu and Joe Rodon are 2 other players that have been named as having serious interest from Premier League clubs. Ampadu, who's joined Leeds permanently this season after a couple of loan spells away from Chelsea. Joe Rodon having a cracking season for Leeds United this year. Keep calling him the keystone, the brick wall at the back for Leeds United. But there is interest there, with Joe Rodon's situation described as having a plethora of Premier League clubs keeping an eye on him. It's very important for Leeds to get promoted this year, to keep hold of this really exciting young group of players. As you said, you've got to match the aspirations of these young players as well. Leeds have got to do it. We saw before when the likes of Charlie Taylor and Sam Byram left Leeds, it was like Leeds didn't back the aspirational direction that these players wanted to go in. So Leeds were in a situation where the players moved on. Leeds will need to match that this time around in order to keep hold of these players. So it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be tough pre-season if we don't get up. So fingers crossed that we do. And then finally today, talking about Brendan Aaronson. Brendan Aaronson finally broke his goal-scoring duck in the Bundesliga this weekend, scoring the winner in their game against Hoffenheim. He has had to settle for cameo appearances off the bench this season. Union Berlin have seen an upturn in their form since they changed manager pre-Christmas. Aaronson has maintained most of his appearances from the bench since the change of manager has happened, but he did come off the bench and score for Union Berlin in what was a winner in a game that they badly needed to win. So, however, sporting director Oliver Runert has been speaking on Brendan Aaronson and has said the following: with Brendan, it comes down to the fundamental theme. Brendan is a super footballer who must accept the fact that in football a certain physical aspect is needed to win the ball and contest challenges. Brendan Aaronson, the same conversations being said about Brendan Aaronson in the Bundesliga as was said in the Premier League, and I'll be very clear on this. I think Brendan Aaronson is a really good footballer, and I think the 99% of Brendan Aaronson's problems are the physical aspect of the game and get knocked off the ball too easily. If he can fix that, there is a really good player in there. There's a very, very good footballer there, but he needs to sort out that part. If he does come back to England, he'll have to do it. He won't stay in the Bundesliga if he can't handle the physical nature of the game. He's on loan at Union Berlin, who are very much in the bottom half of the table, sitting on the bench, getting a few minutes. He is a good player. He could be a very, very good player if he can sort out that physical. He did speak about himself recently as well, saying that he doesn't see it as an issue, that he basically sees that, you know, it's just a style of player that he is. He forces fouls and so, but he's not getting free kicks for them because he goes down too easily. And that's the issue. And now Runnert has basically said the same thing of he needs to realise this and he needs to get this clear in his head that it's a part of the game and he needs to strengthen up a little bit as well. I don't think he loses much from doing that. If you remember Jack Harrison's first season on loan at Leeds, it was a lot more slight than he was the second season, and you saw the pre-season campaign that he went through on his social media when he shared all the images, and he came back a much bigger, stronger player, and it definitely benefited him when Leeds went into the Premier League. So if Aaronson can do that, there's a good player there. There is a good player there. I don't think you ignore that he's decent on the ball, but physical aspect is definitely holding him back, and if he can sort that out, good on him. He's a young player with a bright future if he can sort that part out, but if he can't, it is going to hurt him going forward. Anyway, folks, that's going to be it for me today. Thanks as always for watching. I will be back tomorrow morning for more Leeds news. Have a cracking day, and I'll talk to you then. See ya. Bye.